Seguiremos agora com o painel EBIA Europa. Para conduzir o estimulante painel com ênfase em ecodesign e economia circular, entenderemos como o mercado europeu está se preparando para o futuro sustentável de colchões. Convido para subir ao palco nossos ilustres convidados. Felipe Mendonça, vice-presidente da região Nordeste da Abicol. Frederic Lauwert, secretário-geral da Associação European Institute for Wood Preservation, diretor executivo da European Bedding Industries Association, que reúne os principais fabricantes e fornecedores europeus de colchões. A associação representa os interesses de seus membros em questões relacionadas ao meio ambiente, saúde e segurança, reguladas em nível europeu. Juliano Carlos, diretor de operações da Secor Brasil. Rick Holvoet, cofundador da Triple R. Tiago Rodrigo é jornalista com 10 anos de experiência no setor moveleiro. Atualmente é editor da revista Mobile Fornecedores, publicação voltada exclusivamente para a indústria fabricante de móveis e marcenaria. Vamos recebê-lo também com muitos aplausos. Passo a palavra ao Tiago, o moderador desse painel, desejando que vocês tenham um excelente painel e até já.
Boa tarde a todos. Sou o Tiago, jornalista da revista Mobile. A gente tem a revista 40 anos de experiência já no mercado moveleiro, fornecendo, hoje em dia, 2 revistas, né, para o setor, uma voltada para a indústria e outra para o lojista. Já tenho 10 anos de experiência no mercado e um prazer estar aqui com todos vocês nesse evento aqui hoje. Gostaria de começar chamando o Ryan, não, perdão, o Frederic para apresentar sobre o mercado europeu de colchões.
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank Rodrigo and Adriana for the opportunity to speak. To make your confusion a bit bigger, after a long afternoon already, I will talk on behalf of EBIA, which is with an E, while we heard in the previous session about EBIA with an I. But now I'm here talking about EBIA, which is the European bedding industry. And I've been asked to focus on 2 things: the European market and what Europe is legislating on eco-design. So, as a start, EBIA, which is the European Bedding Industries, it is the European Trade Association representing the interests of the sector in Brussels, and our main members are the mattress manufacturers from all around Europe. We have members from UK to Poland, from Sweden to Portugal, Italy, Greece, and so on. But next to the mattress manufacturers, we also have the suppliers to our industry as an association. And as you can see here, we're a relatively young association. We will celebrate our 25th General Assembly a bit later this year in Malaga, in Spain. But without further ado, I would like to focus on, in the first part of this presentation, on the markets in Europe. As you can see here, Europe is a set of 27 member states, and we, in the bedding sector, we have around 6 to 7 billion euros. And on this slide, you can see the biggest mattress manufacturers across Europe. You can see the biggest manufacturer in Europe is Poland, which serves mainly the rest of the European market, and especially exports quite a lot to Germany. And the second and third market are the UK and Italy. And then you can see all the other countries that are represented by EBIA, But as said, Poland as our biggest market, with probably around 800 million worth of mattresses. What's the size of Europe when we take a look at the total mattress production in the world? Some 10 years ago, the European Union, or at least the EU 27 plus the UK, Norway and Switzerland, we represented about 1/4 of the global mattress production. But now, some 10 years later, it has declined a bit, and we only produce, or we still produce about 20% of the mattresses. Where do our mattresses go? You can see that biggest part of the mattresses produced in Europe stay on our European market, and only some 6, 7, 8% of our mattresses are being exported. This is a portion that is slightly growing year after year. Some 7, 8 years ago, it was only 4%. Now we're around 7 to 8%, and the biggest destination of our mattresses is the USA, with some 30% of all European exports. Imports, as said before, we do not import that much. Most of the European market is being served by production in Europe, and we import around 8, 9, maybe nowadays already close to 10% of our consumption. And it's no surprise our biggest importers are China and Turkey, but we also see countries like Serbia increasing. And here you can see on this slide that we mostly import spring mattresses, followed by foam. Those are by far the two biggest mattress types. And if we take a look below, we can see that China imports most of our exports, most of our imports, most of the mattresses. No, sorry. Most of our imports are coming from China. And you can see here that it gradually exploded over the last couple of years, with a slight decline in 2021, which is full pandemic, both in kilograms, and so in weight and in value. But Chinese exports have been increasing again after this slight decline. So these statistics, what do they show? That China accounts for about 50% of our total imports of mattresses in 2021, and it continued to grow after the decline in 2022. And nowadays, it values about 230 million euros of imports from China. Turkey is number 2. Surprisingly, a country like the Philippines is now the 3rd biggest importer, and Serbia was quite small in the past, but now is also a big importer into the EU. What about e-commerce in our sector? This is, of course, has become quite an important market. We see that overall, when we take a look at the 27 EU member states, some 20% of the mattresses are being sold online, which was a gradual increase, but of course received a big push during the COVID crisis. But what we also see is that e-commerce differs quite a lot from market to market in Europe. We see it quite strong in the UK, in Germany, in France, but in the southern part of Europe, it's still a bit smaller. So those are just a couple of slides on what European stands for in the sense of mattresses. But the focus of my presentation is on what Europe is doing on eco-design. This is a topic that has already been on the agenda for many years in Europe. Many companies have taken initiatives, quite a companies have taken the lead. But what we see now is that the European Commission, which is, let's say, our European government, has taken the initiative to develop a piece of legislation which is called the Eco-Design for Sustainable Products Regulation. In short, in our Brussels jargon, we call it ESPR. But what is it? This is a piece of legislation that fits in a more global framework of the European Commission to green European production and green European products being sold on our markets. It fits within a bigger framework. It has legislation on circular textiles. It encompasses also rules to empower consumers for the green transition, financial support for circular businesses, and the ESPR, as we call it, forms the regulation that really will have quite an important impact on our sector. What is it? It's a regulation. That means that it will be applicable in all 27 EU member states the moment it is adopted. So the EU member states do not need to transpose it. It's immediately applicable the moment that it is adopted. And what does it say? It foresees some details on eco-design requirements and so-called performance requirements, and then also some information requirements. The intention of this piece of legislation is that all products being sold on the European market, whether produced in Europe or whether imported, they will all have to comply with set eco-design requirements. And those eco-design requirements will be developed per product type. And they will vary from one product type to another. But on this slide, you will see an overview on what kind of criteria will have to be or will fall under eco-design requirements. So it's, for example, quite sure that we will have over the next couple of years minimum requirements on recycled content in a mattress, that there will be rules on resource efficiency, on energy use, on our environmental footprint, generation of waste materials, presence of substance of concern. Those are all topics that will be tackled by the legislation. We have been talking about this piece of legislation already quite some time. I will not go into the details on this, but ESPR will enter into force one of the next days. We are anxiously awaiting the final publication of the legal text. And then 9 months following the publication, the European Commission will establish a work program of different products, because the Commission realizes that we cannot, or that it cannot cover all products at the same time. So it will start with some priority products where requirements will already be enforced sooner than for others. And it is expected that the first eco-design requirements for products will be applicable in the European Union by the end of 27, early 28. And as we have seen that mattresses is a priority product, we believe that by, let's say, 28, all mattresses produced and sold and imported in Europe will have to comply with this legislation. I will not go into details, but here you will see what the European Commission has identified from priority products, and you will see that furniture, including mattresses, is very high on the list. And why? Because that's an important question. Why is mattresses quite high on the agenda? And that's based on a study that has been carried out, I think 1.5 years ago. The GRC, which is the Joint Research Center of the European Union, studied 34 different products, and they were studied according to 10 environmental indicators. You can see them here on the screen, and all those 34 product groups were evaluated. And as we can see here, furniture and mattresses are included in as a top priority product. Furniture was placed on number 2 and mattresses number 6. And mattresses were considered as a priority product for 2 simple reasons. First of all, quite an important size of the sector, and in addition, the GRC pointed out that there was quite a good potential to reduce waste generation and to increase material efficiency. And that's what you can also see in the middle of the screen. Our sector scored quite bad on the waste issue, and that is why mattresses will most probably be the priority for the next European Commission to work on. Because that's what will happen over the next couple of years. A so-called eco-design forum will be created, composed of the 27 member states plus the industry, and they will discuss and define eco-design criteria, and by the end of these discussions, European Commission will put these criteria into law. Interesting to know is, of course, since we do not have the final piece of legislation yet, and we certainly do not have the detailed eco-design criteria for our sector, it's interesting to learn what kind of measures or what kind of criteria will be tackled. And there is quite a long list of things that Europe wants to tackle, and based on our calculation, on our work so far, those criteria can be categorized in 4 different pillars. First of all is everything that has to do with durability, improving life service of a mattress. Secondly, it's everything that has to do with design for end of life. A third category is materials, and energy and emissions is the last one. And on this slide, you can see what the Joint Research Center proposes as topics that will have to be dealt with for mattresses. For example, design for disassembly, minimum recycled content, design to facilitate the disassembly, a minimum recycled content, refurbishing, recycling. It will also most probably include levels of greenhouse gas emitted, energy consumption. So those are not yet written into law, but those are all things that will most probably be on the table when the European Commission and member states start talking about our products. So this is a legislation that is on eco-design and that will be valid across Europe as soon as the delegated act is valid for everything that's produced in Europe and imported in Europe. But next to that, we also have something which is called the Waste Framework Directive, and that calls for extended producer responsibility schemes. But before I dive in, here on this slide you see why this is something that the Commission wants really to highlight. Around 48 million mattresses are sold annually across Europe, in the EU 28 when we still had the UK as a member. And around 42 million mattresses reach their end of life annually, and about half of them go to landfill across Europe. 1/3 is incinerated for energy recovery, and only 14% is recycled. And with the extended producer responsibility schemes across Europe, the European Union or the different member states want to increase the recycled part in that. And we, for the time being, have 3 mandatory schemes across Europe. It's Ecomaison in France, it's Valomat in Belgium, and the Netherlands since 2022 also has their mandatory scheme. And this means that if you, as a consumer, are living in one of those 3 countries, you need to pay an additional fee on top of the cost of your mattress. That fee is then being collected by a separate organization and is being used to, let's say, reverse the logistics. Mattresses are collected in a special place. They are then again be transported to dismantlers, to recyclers. And this is a system that exists and is functioning quite well. And we believe as EBIA that this is a very good tool to enhance the eco-design criteria for mattresses. And I think with that, I've tried to be a bit short. So with that, you have a short overview on what's happening in Europe on the issue of eco-design.
Muito obrigado, Frederic, por sua ótima apresentação. Agora eu gostaria de chamar ao palco, ao púlpito, o Sr. Rick, para falar sobre o passaporte digital para a reciclagem de produtos.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me here. Just following on what Frederic said, happy to present on what we are doing because Triple R, and it's the 3 R's from reduce, reuse, recycle. So we are a company that is really born in the world of eco-design, sustainability, and the need of information sharing via the digital product passport. The digital product passport is something that becomes mandatory. So every mattress produced or imported in Europe will have to comply with the digital product passport. But I guess most of you here are from the industry. You are not very enthusiastic when a new legislation is applicable because you think it's a cost, and for sure it will have a cost. But we are also confident that it creates some opportunities. And therefore, I want to link with what René Oliveira said on Industry 4.0. Digital product passport, it's also a way of digitizing the business. And if you digitize the business, it creates opportunities as well. I will skip this one because that corresponds very much with what Frederic said. Just to highlight, we expect the Delegated Act for mattresses to become mandatory by the end of 27, beginning 28, something like that. You can think that's still ages, but in fact, this is tomorrow. Two important things on the eco-design. There will be eco-design criteria, meaning you will have to redesign your products. Things will not be allowed anymore to put in the mattresses. There will be minimum, maximum levels of composition, whatever. So all of you know how much time it takes to design a product. I guess you can equally estimate how much time it takes to redesign a product. So that takes time. Second thing, digital product passport. It's about collecting information that most likely we do not have yet. So also this will take time. So that's why we say better start today and not later. Yeah, just to repeat, not the performance requirements, but there is a strong focus on information. Sharing information and sharing the information on your product has supported the main goals of the Eco-Design Directive. And there is 3 main goals. First of all, the European Commission wants that consumers make more sustainable choices. So by the means of showing a digital product passport to a consumer, Europe hopes that consumers choose for the most sustainable product. That's goal number 1. Second goal is to extend the lifetime of the product. And therefore, they want to share information on maintenance of mattresses. Can a cover be washed? Things like that. Can they be repaired? Can young trial mattresses get a second life via refurbishing? That's all things they want in extending the lifetime of a product. And when the product is really end of life, as Fredrik said, we may not landfill anymore, we may not incinerate anymore, we have to do something with it. We need to try to recycle the components up to the highest quality of recycling in the end to reuse them in new mattresses. We'll skip this because it goes too far into detail. What kind of information do we need to share? We start very basic, with just basic information that you already have, just to identify your product, that we know which mattress model, size, hardness we are talking about. We give every mattress you make a single digital identifier. You can call it a unique serial number. And we guarantee that it's worldwide unique. And why should it be worldwide unique? Digital product passports will be mandatory for all product groups. I assume if you have a digital product passport of a mattress and you scan it, that you expect to see the data of a mattress and not the data of a bag of dog food, because by coincidence it has the same serial number. So we need to avoid this, and for this we are following the GS1 standard, ensuring that you get unique serial number. Second, there will be regulatory data, and this is not yet defined. It still needs to be defined, and we as a company invite the mattress industry, we invite manufacturers to work together with us to make a proposal towards Europe to standardize the data. Because yes, we need to standardize data to ensure that all of us talk the same language. And then the next thing comes, besides the mandatory things, you can add voluntary information, and there comes where you have some possibilities to create new business models, to engage with the consumer, and there you can gain back the benefits and overcompensate the cost you have made. We also try to unite the end-of-life processes. As Fredrik said, Belgium, France, and Netherlands, we have EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility, which means that all mattresses are being, at end of life, collected, sorted, dismantled, and the dismantled pieces need to get recycled. And there comes the problem now. Many of these pieces are not being recycled because we do not know the content. And here comes a digital product passport that should help the dismantlers to recycle the components. And that's an important thing we are working on. Or maybe just to make the link with the Inmetro presentation, Europe also wants to link the digital product passport to the customs systems. So every mattress that gets imported can be certified or can be checked if it complies with digital product passport. So imports will not escape, and Europe asks all the member states to put measures in place to control the import, that they are equally subject to the regulation as the local production. So we at RRR, we created the Mattress ID consortium together with companies in Belgium, and from September onwards we are expanding toward Europe to work together on a common solution for the digital product passport that is compliant to Europe and that also creates benefits for the industry itself. So that's why we want to involve all stakeholders. And a very important thing, since we are collecting data from the various manufacturers, from the various stakeholders, we ensure that we are 100% impartial and independent. Otherwise, it will never work. That's a prerequisite for having a good working system. we know what we talk about. My business partner and myself, we have been active in the business for many years. That's why we focus on mattresses and only on mattresses and no other product groups. We use a system that proves that it works. There's already on the, it's a platform developed by Avery Dennison. There's already billions of items on the platform, not mattresses, mainly in the apparel fashion world, but it proves that it works. We've built the mattress solution on top of it, and we want the industry to deploy it. I guess we can keep it like that because I'm already over time. If you want to know more, I'm still around. I'm in the corner there at the exposition at the booth of Overseas. Please come to visit. I can show it real life how we can work together. Thank you.
Obrigado, Rick. Agora eu gostaria de chamar o Juliano Carlos, que vai falar sobre o C-Core, uma tecnologia sustentável para a estrutura do colchão.
Boa noite. Em primeiro lugar, agradecer ao Rodrigo, a Adriana pelo convite, toda a equipe da Bicol, para poder apresentar aqui a tecnologia do C-Core. Bem, o C-Core foi um projeto de engenharia com a cooperação entre o Brasil e o Japão, com apoio da JICA, que é a agência governamental do Japão para a cooperação internacional, onde criamos um material no qual nós temos uma patente PCT, modelo PCT, uma patente mundial. Quando eu comecei a trabalhar com esse projeto em 2015, lá no Japão, consegui perceber imediatamente que a nossa missão, aí, o propósito seria mudar a vida das pessoas, trazendo uma tecnologia inovadora que poderia aliviar, em algumas situações, necessidades principalmente hospitalares, já que o produto foi criado inicialmente para colchões de CTI, porque quando o paciente está acamado com as lesões por pressão, né, as escaras, se o paciente deitar sobre o material com o revestimento correto, essas lesões se fecham, né? E, além desse propósito inicial, também introduzir um material reciclável no mercado que atendesse tudo isso. Posteriormente, nós desenvolvemos um projeto dentro da Universidade Federal de Minas Gerais, um projeto científico de 4 anos, onde nós desenvolvemos um laboratório chamado Labtec C-Core, o FMG, que foi aprovado pela Procuradoria-Geral da União, um laboratório por 20 anos dentro da universidade, para desenvolver novos estudos e novas tecnologias para reduzir as lesões por pressão no ambiente hospitalar. Então, esse foi o propósito inicial de criação do produto. Mas, pela proximidade aí dos outros segmentos, posteriormente, nós o aplicamos em assentos para cadeiras de rodas, porque os cadeirantes também têm essa questão da lesão por pressão. Depois, os colchões de bebê laváveis, onde nós podemos lavar o colchão caso o bebê venha sujar o colchão, e também não ter a questão do sufocamento do bebê quando está dormindo. Posteriormente, colocamos em móveis de área externa, obviamente aí pelas aplicações também de ser lavável, em iates no segmento PET, e agora também vem muito forte aí no segmento de colchões por duas situações. Primeiramente, pelo altíssimo fator de conforto e resistência do material, mas também pela questão da necessidade da economia circular, que vem essa demanda para os colchões, não só na Europa, mas também agora no Brasil e na América Latina. Então, o material tem essa propriedade e consegue atender a essa demanda porque o material é 100% reciclável. Ele não tem nenhum aditivo químico, é um polietileno específico, né, que pode voltar à sua forma original no reprocesso aí, da indústria. Eu vou pedir o pessoal para passar um vídeo breve aqui para vocês, que vai resumir essa história do projeto da Secor, para que vocês possam entender como chegou essa inovação aqui. Bom, aqui o vídeo resume um pouco a nossa história. Nós estamos localizados aí na região de Belo Horizonte, mas o nosso projeto é para atender todo o Brasil e a América Latina. Nós somos exclusivos para a produção e distribuição desse produto que nós criamos. Nós temos, dentro desse projeto, com a patente japonesa, unidades na Indonésia, Coreia, Vietnã, Estados Unidos, Inglaterra e, por último, foi montada essa unidade no Brasil. São todos parceiros da mesma patente, do mesmo produto, né, em conjunto aí com os nossos fornecedores que desenvolveram essa matéria-prima. Todos esses segmentos que vocês viram, o material já está consolidado. Esperamos aí agora que no segmento de colchões também haja essa entrada bem sólida do produto, assim como nos outros segmentos. E só para finalizar, eu queria falar uma coisa bem rápida aqui. Como eu disse, o projeto começou em 2015, mas durante essa jornada, com as várias dificuldades, esse projeto quase teve seu fim em 2020. E em 2020 teve uma pessoa que entrou no projeto e foi o responsável para que o projeto continuasse até agora. Alguns já o conhecem, os que não conhecem eu gostaria de apresentá-lo. Ele está entre vocês aí, uma pessoa muito importante hoje no dia a dia da Sicor para que o projeto continue evoluindo, que é o senhor Thiago Temponi. Queria pedir para se levantar, por favor, se apresentar a todos. Ok, muito obrigado.
Agradeço, uma salva de palmas para o Juliano, sua apresentação. Para começar a fase de perguntas, eu gostaria de perguntar para o Felipe Mendonça, que é do Conselho de Ética da Bicol e vice-presidente do Nordeste, como que você enxerga, a partir das apresentações aqui feitas, quais são os maiores desafios que os fabricantes de colchões do Brasil enfrentam ao tentar adotar práticas sustentáveis como o ecodesign e a economia circular?
Olha, Tiago, eu acho que nossa indústria já tem um foco na economia circular forte, né? Na própria indústria, as indústrias de colchão fazem o aglomerado, a maioria das indústrias já tem captação de água e reuso de água de chuva. Na cadeia de suprimentos aí, as empresas de tecido já têm produtos com material reciclado. Os grandes players químicos aí também já fazem produtos com um alto percentual de material renovável, né? Dito isso, eu acho que a grande dificuldade aqui no Brasil é a gente criar essa mentalidade no consumidor, né? A gente conseguir comunicar isso melhor ao consumidor final, fazer com que ele enxergue nisso um diferencial. Acho que essa pauta, tudo vinculado ao ESG, está muito incorporado, né, no ambiente corporativo, mas acho que falta ainda um pouco de preocupação do consumidor final, né? Infelizmente, no Brasil, o colchão, como foi dito até antes aqui no painel anterior, ele é muito comoditizado, então o pessoal tem muito preço na cabeça. Então, acho que qualquer iniciativa de economia circular ou ecodesign que não traga um benefício, seja de redução de custo ou de prorrogação da vida útil do colchão, eu acho que isso tem uma pequena resistência por parte do consumidor final. Dito isso, se a gente olhar como estava, né, como era a preocupação com esse tema há 10 anos e como é hoje, a evolução foi muito grande. Então, eu acho que é questão de tempo e comunicação para que isso seja quebrado.
Ótimo, muito obrigado. Acompanhando a resposta do Felipe, eu gostaria de perguntar ao Frederick sobre como que o consumidor europeu vê essa questão da sustentabilidade e também quais são os principais benefícios do ecodesign para os fabricantes de colchões e também para os consumidores.
Thank you. This is a crucial question. Consumers play an important role. Consumers need to be aware on the footprint of the products that they're buying. What we see in Europe is that there is a growing knowledge about this topic. Consumers are more and more aware about the environmental impact of the products that they're buying. But of course, it's still related quite heavily with price, as here in Brazil, and I think across the world. It remains to be seen whether consumers are ready to pay a bit more if it needs to be a bit more expensive, but it's a crucial question. But we believe that the consumers play an important role, but also the companies, the authorities, they all play an important role to make sure that the products that we all consume are more durable and are more sustainable than products that we are consuming today.
Ótimo, muito obrigado. Agradeço a participação de todos aqui no palco e a oportunidade de estar aqui hoje presente com todos vocês. Esse foi o painel sobre sustentabilidade de colchões no mundo todo. Muito obrigado.
Muito obrigada a todos. Eu solicito que fiquem de pé aqui ao centro do palco para que a gente possa fazer uma foto. Por favor, gostaria de pedir aos palestrantes a gentileza. Quero aproveitar o momento para agradecer aos participantes desse painel por suas valiosas contribuições. Mais uma vez, muito obrigada a todos.